there is in me an inclination and manage stuff that I need. And Paul, in this part, and the distress that it causes in the church, because it's true that two people who whole body, because people end up Eodia that they would with her, and another time they tell Syntyche they with her. So the distress continues. So Paul tells them that there's a need for them to diffuse the distress, the agony between them. What are you looking at, Reverend? You find something you want to share? I thought so. I see that look on you.
Since the message was saying, since you're right there to help them work things out, do your best with them. Well, that's the next verse. So with the conflict that has come up, even in today's world, there is someone there to mediate. So
did you say mediate?
Yes, to help them, those two work it out.
Right.
These women worked on use it from spreading.
Yeah. It's Matthew 18. When you have a disagreement with another person, try to work it out to the best of your ability between the two of you. Try to keep it local so that other people don't get involved in it. So that don't nobody know that the two of you are fighting but the two of you. And if you keep it between the two of you, then it does not influence other people. So us. And so this is the teaching of Jesus. We do this. We say this every fourth Sunday. In the case of disagreement, you try to reconcile according to the 18th chapter of Matthew. We say that on the fourth Sunday of every month. So that's the best way to resolve it. But he goes on to say, if you can't work it out between the two of you, then get. I remember more than one occasion when people have come to me, conflict between themselves and another person. And I say, you're telling me. I said, well, I didn't tell her. So why are you telling me if you didn't say to her? Because she can fix it. And between the two of you, you can fix it. But I can't fix it because it's between you two. And I think that's what Jesus says. That's his teaching. Yeah, if y'all mad at each other, work it out. Yes, Mary. You got to hold your light up higher. I didn't see it that time. I see it now.
And it reminds me of a conversation that happened when my family got together, and I'm talking about people who no longer live in the house were in the conversation, and everybody had a different perspective. There were no bad guys, but it just wasn't enough patience to hear and understand the other person's perspective. So back in verse 2, he's asking them to be of the same mind. That takes time. And we're not willing to give each other the time or the bills who has another point of view altogether, and then don't always improve.
Yeah, I think that's right. Be of the same mind. Get to the place where you understand each other, where I don't necessarily agree with you, just don't understand what you're saying.
Then be understood. We're so busy trying to get our point across. We may be, like you said, talking about the same thing, but we're entrenched in our own agendas and won't seek to understand first.
And not only in our own agendas, but in our own way of saying what it is. Because they both saying the same thing, and I, you know, y'all saying the same thing, right? But because they're different people, they don't get there. And it no doubt it happened with Eodia and Syntyche, both wanting to promote Jesus Christ as the crucified, buried, resurrected Savior and Lord. Both thinking of themselves as working with Paul with the same goal, the same aim, still wanting the same thing that Paul wanted, saying it differently because it makes sense for us to work harder. It was not always easy to understand at Olive Grove. I remember when I first came, and people would say, I don't understand the language that you use. Carl Hales was the first person to tell me that. He said, you know these people don't know what you're talking about. Language, the words I used, I guess, were not helpful for people. But Cora Wilson told me that, and Ms. Watson told me that. And because they told me that I wasn't getting through because of the words that I was using, I changed my approach to speaking to this congregation. And I think that the congregation, by the same token, became accustomed to listening to me. And so rather than saying, I don't understand, they worked harder at trying to come where I was, and I worked harder at trying to come where they were. So we were trying to get to the same mind. We were trying to understand how to understand each other. And 12 years later, I suggest to you that we have succeeded in trying to understand one another. So people are not intimidated if I use a word that has more than 3 syllables, because they know the next word is going to have 2 syllables or 1. And I'm going to explain whatever it is I'm trying to say. And so there's a place in the body of Christ for people to try to understand each other, and a place for people to try to make themselves understandable. My next response is, huh? And when you say, huh, or I say, huh, I don't get it, then my next response is a word that makes sense to you, a word that you get. And so that we are both trying to get to the same place, both trying to speak to be understood and to listen to understand. Yes, Reverend.
And I was thinking about because everybody process things so differently. And we have a tendency to, if we have the conflict, we have to, because of how I process it, if we have to wait, because it's all about timing when I approach that person. Because we're going to come together and talk, but I might have had a bad day, and you ready to talk about it, but I had a bad day and you don't know it. So that would just, when we're led by the Spirit will say, well, don't say nothing to her right now. It'll blow up.
I say this to couples who I see from time to time, both in marriage training before they get married and in conversations after people are married. I say to people, never forget that your spouse has your best interest in mind, even when they don't sound like it. When you win, they win. When they win, you win. So even if something ugly comes out of your mouth or the mouth of your spouse, remember who you're talking to. You're talking to somebody who, for some reason, you decided to stand before God and these witnesses to marry, and you committed to for better, for worse, for richer, for poor, to be with forever. And so when you discover that they are not perfect, it's crazy for you to decide that disqualifies them in any way. Because if you asked me before you got married, I would have told you, now they ain't gonna be perfect. Stuff gonna go, as Robin would say, to the left. It's gonna go wrong. It's not gonna happen just right all the time. That's how it goes. And it's not only is it that way in married relationships, it's that way in every relationship. It's the people on your job. You don't like everybody every day. I said to you last Sunday, it's not easy to love everybody. For me, maybe it is for you. It's not easy for me to behave lovingly toward everybody. I mean, it's easy to say, but when somebody get on my nerves, something might happen. I might say something. That's just what's real. This Paul's counsel to these church people who are trying to figure out how to make it work. He said, now, I plead with Euodia and I plead with Syntyche, both of them as individuals, to agree with each other in the Lord. Now, there may be some stuff that, Euodia thinks Syntyche is crazy, and Syntyche thinks Euodia is something else. She's wrong about whatever she's wrong about. But he pleads with both of them to get together to agree in Jesus is the crucified, buried, resurrected, ascending, soon to return Son of God. If we agree on that, we can fuss about everything else. But that's what's real. That's the fact. So he wants them to come together in terms of their faith in who God is and what he does. Yes, I ask you, local yoke fellow, help these women who have contended at my side in the cause of the gospel. They're trying to promote. This is a church that's just burgeoning. It's just being born, along with Clement and the rest of my co-workers whose names are in the book of life. So here are people who are trying to promote the gospel and trying to get the contention out of the place. Now, at this time in the church, we're talking about the first where Jesus said, I'm coming back again. And 30 years later, they're still waiting for him. And well, first time he died, he got up in 3 days. Now it's 30 years. So when is he coming? And there's all kinds of anxiety about his return. That's 2,000 years ago. What about now? 2,000 years later, when he still has not come. And so there's this anxiety among people. And Euodia and Syntyche and Clement and other people have their perspectives on how this thing ought to work and what they ought to be doing in anticipation of the Lord's return. Because he said he would, and he hasn't. And as far as they're concerned, it's been long enough. So they agonize and they worry. And they differ. Like we've seen people in the last, everybody in this room is, except maybe Shireen, is old enough to remember how many times in the last 30, 40 years people have said the end of the world is coming this day, and the end of the world is coming that day, and the end of the world is coming. There was this crowd, and remember that guy in California, he and a bunch of people killed themselves because they thought they were going to meet remember that? Yeah, they thought they were going to going to meet a spaceship or something somewhere. And so they all laid together in a room and killed themselves because they said it's the end of the world. And then the people who thought that the Lord was coming then. And it's happened so many times in history, more times than I can recall, that people have said, this is the year that the return of Christ. And it's not new. These women and others in the first century, he hadn't been gone 30 years, had different ideas about the return of Christ, and they said whatever they wanted to say. So Paul says to them, settle down. Rejoice in the Lord always. And I say it again, rejoice. And rejoice means have joy again. So they had joy at the resurrection, but they lost their joy after his delay, after he didn't come. So he says, rejoice. So return again to your sense of delight when you knew that he was. Stop. So don't give up. I say it again. Rejoice. Let your gentleness be evident to all. Stop fighting. He's coming, like he said it would. The Lord is near. It won't be long now. I know it seems like long to you, but it won't be long. He doesn't count time the way we count time. So he came before, and he's coming again, just like he said he would. So stop stressing, stop agonizing, stop fighting, stop worrying, lose the anxiety, because just like he said he was coming, he will. He's near, he's close. Don't worry about it. And maybe it seems strange to us that 2,000 years later we would still be reading these same words, where he says, I see you, I know you.
It says, the message says, this is 4 and 5 and 6 and 7. Celebrate God all day. Mm-hmm. Every day, I mean, revile in him. Make it as clear as you can to all you meet that you're on their side, working with them and not against them. Mm-hmm. Help them see that the master is about to arrive. He could show up any minute. Don't fret or worry. Instead of worrying, pray. Mm-hmm. Let petitions and praises shape your worries into prayers. Amen.
Mm-hmm. That's 4 and 5, Mary? Mm-hmm. Go back to 4, I think. You on 6. Rejoice in the Lord always. I will say it again. Rejoice. Let your gentleness be evident to all, for the Lord is near. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. So here he speaks to a community of people who have become so anxious, so worried. Yeah, I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where you have anticipated something, you've desired something, you wanted for something, that just the waiting just got to you. You just agonized over. So when is it going to be? So I'm ready, and the more uncomfortable you become, so the more you worry. But is it ever going to happen? Because he said I could ask for anything that I wanted, and I'd get it. And I asked for it, and I ain't getting it. So when? And how? And I did what he said, and yet it's still not real. And so Paul says to the Philippians, settle down. He's got his own timing, and it's just not your timing. But he won't forget about you. He won't neglect you. So this anxiety that you feel, we don't really have a good sense of how long is forever. That was the extent of his life. He would have been a miserable person. But he believed in eternity, and he believed in a time beyond 2021. And Paul, in these words, invites us to stop thinking about ourselves in such temporal language. The peace of God transcends all understanding, will guard our hearts and our minds. That's our hearts and our minds and how to think. So that we are not misled as to forget about what's real in our lives, what's real for us. Is not temporal. Because of our faith in him, it's eternal. Amen. It's not so consequential, but it's in him. That's where we put our trust, and that's Paul's. And sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable. Think on, if anything is excellent and praiseworthy, think about such things. Whatever you have learned or received or heard from me or seen in me, put it into practice, and the God of peace will be with you. That's what we, I think that's what we long for. That's what we, of God, will be with us. That's we want the God of peace, and we want the peace of God. We want to be able to rest. We want to be able to spend our time in assurance that we are not. But in the meantime, just chill. Just relax. He didn't forget. He's not absent from us. Well, he's not distant. He's not far away. He's not oblivious to what goes on in our lives. The peace of God. Surpass. Take it easy. He's got it. He did not create creation and then walk away. He's still on it. Yes, Mary.
I think one of the reasons why I love these verses, even though I haven't completely mastered them yet, is they work. If we continue to dwell on the stuff we're scared of, worried about, regret, guilty about, we're not going to have any peace. But if you turn on that gospel music and open up that book and tell yourself that this is true, even though I don't feel like it, it's true, you can work yourself out of an emotional pit over time. But what do we choose to think about has a lot to do with it.
And what do you think about? Put up verse 8 again. Whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Now, if you think about the opposite of those things, you can talk yourself into misery. You can talk yourself into misery if you want to. But if you prefer to return to joy, to rejoice, you can get there. The way is open. Yes, ma'am.
I even noticed that in the next verses that follow, he said, pay attention to what I did and do the same. But then he models it. Because this church has got to be plucking his nerves, but he found something nice to say about it.
Well, and you remember, a church is people.
Yes, yes.
And, you got a lot of different kind of people in church. Yes, Reverend.
If you think about the best, not the worst, the beautiful, not the ugly, things to praise, not things to curse. And the man you feed the most is the strongest.
I heard you say that.
So therefore, if you feed the flesh, it'll make you weary.
It's not hard to find stuff wrong with people.
Exactly.
If you want to, you can find something wrong with everybody except Cornelius. You can find something wrong with everybody if you look, and you can say you can figure something out that they are deficient in some way, or they don't live up to whatever you think they should live up to. But if instead of looking for the worst that you can see in anybody or about anything, you look for the best. That's how we elevate. That's how we elevate. That's how we overcome anxiety, overcome distress, overcome. See that? If you want to look for somebody who's not whatever you think you want to see, you can find that. But if I want to find reasons for rejoicing, there are enough reasons for rejoicing around. There are enough reasons for rejoicing abounding, and I can help uplift somebody by my ability to find reasons about them for rejoicing.
And Pastor, when I was reading it says we have the control because it says think on these things. So I can think myself down or I can think myself up. I have the control of thinking positive or negative or rejoicing always. Yeah, I know it's raining outside, but I know it's going to stop. And because of the rain, everything is how you look at it. So we have that control not to worry about stuff.
I'm with you. If we decide not to allow life's circumstances to pull us down, and we figure out all the stuff that's going wrong. There was 9 people died in California today, but 300 million people still alive. So we could agonize over the 9 people who died, or we could celebrate the fact that most of us are still alive. Yes, Mary.
See, this the meat of the word people don't like to hear about all the time. People think if they've got a degree or they can quote a certain scripture, they need to be elevated. But they haven't proven themselves mature enough to even conquer their own emotions and thought patterns. You can't lead no ministry if you haven't control of your own self. And people don't get that. They just want to excel intellectually, but haven't grown spiritually to be able to walk through some stuff.
Well, that's what it is, isn't it? It's intellectual capacity is important and valuable. School, you know me. I think education is a wonderful thing. I think that everything that people do, whether formally or informally, to improve their ability to acquire and use information. I think that's wonderful. I think that's what it is. I think it's how we're supposed to live. I think that's one of the gifts that God has given to us is the ability to recognize, to cognize, to cognitate, to understand stuff. And our ability to do that enhances our ability to contribute to other people in other ways. But it's not the same for everybody. And everybody doesn't come at the same rate and in the same way. And therefore, the way God has blessed one of us enables us to impute, to invest into another one of us so that everybody comes along. So that if I know something that will help you, if I say to you the thing that will help you, then my living will not be in vain, because I didn't get it to keep it. I got it to give away. And if I give it away to somebody who received what I gave away, and I think that's the thing that Paul lists in this list of virtues. Whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent, anything is praiseworthy, think about that kind of stuff. Don't spend too much time on stuff that's not helpful. Don't spend too much time on stuff that doesn't produce good results. But think on the things that give good ends. Think about things that help other people. And they help you. Not only does it help other people, it helps you. It helps me to think about the noble, the beautiful, the true, the right, the righteous. It helps me, because rather than seeing everything that's wrong in the world, I see what's right. Yes, Mary?
I just want to give a little dap, even though I'm not perfect and none of us are. If we did a little prep and praise in the morning and let the Lord recalibrate our thinking, we wouldn't be so volatile and unpredictable with our tempers and our feelings if we started the day right. Now, that sounds simple, but how many of us downplay the importance of that and then get upset in the traffic? You know what I'm saying? They haven't prepped their spirit to deal with what's coming.
Well, I think a lot of us do, as you say, not recognize that. I got this text from E.J. Pope a few days ago. She said, I had a call from she does a call center, and she said, somebody said to me today that God woke me up at 5 o'clock this morning, whatever time it was. And she and I agreed that that's a great way to talk about our waking up in the morning. Said, I decided to get up when I got up. But before I decided to get up, God woke me up. So I didn't wake myself up. He woke me up one more day. He didn't have to do it, but he did. He woke me up. And then at some point after he woke me up, I decided to get up. That's a great thought to me. So that when we think about what we go through, when we think about our experiences in life, it does make sense for us to rejoice always and to rejoice again and again. Yes, Reverend. I saw you with your hand on your microphone.
And I did, because if we would strive to put our minds in the frame of rejoicing and being glad, because it's not as bad, regardless of what it is. It's not as bad as it could be.
Yeah. I think about that. You've heard me talk about, and many of you met Reginald Terry. We talk from time to time about the word rejoice. And the notion of rejoicing is the notion of returning again to joy. I was joyful I was joyous. There was a time when I was really happy. So I return again to joy. I return again to the place that I was really happy. So Paul says, rejoice in the Lord always. And again, I say, rejoice. And so we've come to say tonight, don't worry. There's no need to worry because we have so many reasons to be grateful. And we spend our time, and I usually let you go on time. And it's 8 o'clock now where I am. And I thank you for joining us in whatever manner you did, whether you're here in real life, as some of you are, or on YouTube, as some of you are. And I pray that you'll meet us again. We'll be here Sunday morning at 11 o'clock on YouTube. And we're working on some of the glitches we had last Sunday. I regret that things turned out that way. I wish it had not, but it did. And we'll be back next Wednesday at 7 o'clock, and I pray you'll be able to meet us then. God bless you. Good night.